Hello and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This episode of our podcast is brought to you by My Auto Care. My Auto Care is revolutionary in the auto care industry. They come to you. That's right. If you're stuck at home on a snowy day, or if you're just at work and don't want to leave and go get an oil change, or if your brakes are bad, whatever it is, check out My Auto Care for your next auto care service repair. They will come to you. They'll drive to you. They have these great vans, trucks, whatever it is that you need. They will come to you and fix up your car and make it look great. Check out myautocare.com. Look them up and schedule your next appointment as soon as you can. You don't want to wait. They have the best customer service that you could possibly imagine. Check them out, myautocare.com, and schedule your next appointment today. We're also brought to you by Affinity Apartment Communities. Affinity Apartment Communities, they make living so comfortable, and they make it so easy to get set up in your next comfortable home. Check out affinityapartmentcommunities.com. Get the application started as soon as possible, or give them a call and ask for Sarah and see about getting in to your next Affinity Apartment Community apartment, or they even have homes, even 3-bedroom homes with garages, places out in the woods, and also they are a part of the Agape Ridge Cabins, and you can schedule your next getaway, your next vacation at the agaperidgecabins.com and get there quick because they are going fast. Go to agaperidgecabins.com to schedule your next getaway, weekend, or a week-long vacation in the beautiful Hocking Hills, Ohio. Check them out, agaperidgecabins.com and affinityapartmentcommunities.com. Let's go.
Could be up to the offensive line. No, Prince's going to throw for it. Got to get it off. They go for the ball game. Touchdown! Touchdown! Michael Jacobs! Holy Buckeye! Tebow straight ahead into the end zone, and the Gators have put this one on ice.
Hello, and welcome to the Tim and Shipe Show. This is a college football podcast. Thank you so much for joining us. We're part of the Press Play Podcast Network, and Tim Jones and I are going to be talking about college football for the next hour or so. And this is going to be our last episode until post-playoffs. So enjoy this episode. Take a few weeks to breathe it all in, to soak it in, to really enjoy college football, because Tim and I won't be back until after the first playoff game in January. And no, on December 28th is the first playoff game. And so we'll probably be the Tuesday after that. And we are looking forward to it. So we're going to be on a little bit of a break, but thank you so much for joining us today. And let's get right into it. Tim Jones, did you watch the Ohio State-Wisconsin game and all the championship games for that matter?
Yeah, I watched a lot of football.
Yeah.
Throughout Saturday, and a little bit on Friday. I didn't watch all of it on Friday. Honestly, I forgot it was on. So, there was a lot of really interesting football. Not as many close games this year. Obviously, the Oklahoma game was by far the best game. The Ohio State game was good too, but I think the Oklahoma, obviously, they went to overtime. It was a close game. That was a lot of fun to watch. So I think that was the closest game. There were a couple blowouts, but it was a fun weekend of football.
Did it just seem like Oklahoma kind of fell into that fourth spot in the playoff committee? Spoiler alert, if you haven't seen it and you've been living in a cave but somehow listening to our podcast and haven't seen that Oklahoma's the fourth spot. But so Oklahoma took that fourth spot kind of by default because they were playing Baylor's third-string quarterback and went into overtime.
Yeah, definitely. It was pretty much came down to, do we let a Georgia team that has lost again –
right.
And over a team that won, and they decided to let the team that won in. Yeah, it was pretty much like by default they had to.
But why Georgia and not a team like Florida? Why would they give Georgia the nod over, say, Florida or even an Oregon team who just smoked the committee's fourth-ranked team?
Well, I think it's because they clearly weighted conference championships very highly this year, whether they won or lost. It was obviously a high priority for them. Oregon fell just short because they were ranked, I think, 12th or 13th before this game.
Mm-hmm.
So because they had lost, a rough game. So based on that, I think that they couldn't move them up that far. So they still moved up like 7 spots, but it wasn't enough to put them. They were too far behind for them to even consider them for the playoff at that point to take it seriously. But they obviously weighed these conference championships extremely high this year. And my big example of that would be a 3-loss Wisconsin team being ahead of Florida, a 2-loss team that their 2 losses are to 2 top 5 teams, versus Wisconsin, who has 2 losses to Ohio State and that really bad loss to Illinois. and they're still ranked 8th ahead of Florida. So that to me just shows that, and obviously LSU jumping Ohio State. Those are two specific examples I have of conference championships really being important this year.
Yeah, the conference championships absolutely carried a lot, which in the past it doesn't seem like they have. The committee is so up and down. You just never know what you're going to get when you are dealing with this committee year in and year out. It's just treading water up until the 9th week of the season until you finally find out what's this committee valuing. And everything's set up for Oklahoma to be in the 4th spot. I thought even if Utah won, Oklahoma was still going to slip into that 4th spot. And Utah and Oregon made it really, really easy on the committee this year.
Yep. No, absolutely. I think the only thing that could have changed is if Georgia had somehow beaten LSU instead of getting blown out. I think if Georgia had made the game close against LSU, it may have changed the conversation a little bit, made it a little more tempting to consider Georgia. But really, I think the bottom line is Oklahoma winning against a Baylor who is a solid number 7 in the rankings. So that for them was enough to get them over the hump. Versus and Georgia losing and Utah losing, that it made the decision easy for them. They just slipped in right in the number 4 spot.
Yeah, and so the conversation a lot this week in the state of Ohio has been, why is Ohio State? I sound like an idiot. Why is Ohio State ranked 2nd and LSU ranked number 1? And how important is that? That's what I want to throw at you right now. How important is that number 1 spot, and why did Ohio State drop to 2?
Well, it depends on I'll answer how important is it first. I think it depends on your perspective. There are 2 perspectives I'm hearing nationally on these number 1 versus number 2. One perspective is for the Ohio State fans, like, it's not fair. We should be number 1. We don't want to play Clemson. And the other one is who cares? Who gives a crap? Like, we want to beat the best. We should be able to beat anybody we play. No excuses. We've got this. If we can't beat Clemson, we don't deserve to be national championships or in the national championship. And personally, I really respect the second one. I understand not wanting to play Clemson, but I also respect the heck out of people who are saying, to be the best team, we want to play the best matchups. And I remember you saying for weeks how you wanted to play 2 SEC teams just to prove a point. That you've been pretty consistent about this. Like, I don't think you prefer to play Clemson, but you're also like, I'll take it. Let's do it.
All right. Yeah. That's thank you, Tim, for giving me some credit there, because I'm fine with the number 2. And honestly, if we win out, it's going to look really, really good. If we win out, I think this Ohio State team is going to be in the conversation of the best team to ever play college football. If they beat Clemson and LSU in this playoff. I think Ohio State could be in that conversation, which is why I kind of embrace this, because I want that opportunity to be considered that, because I honestly think this team can live up to it. Here's why you want number 1. Okay, the spread for the Ohio State-Clemson game is Clemson favored by 3 from what I remember. Okay, the spread for the LSU-Oklahoma game, LSU by 13. That's why it's such a big deal. 16-point flip between the first and second ranked team. And so that's why it's so important. And Tim, I don't know, we've been following these spreads for a long time, for like all season, all last season. Like, we've been following these spreads, and Vegas is really, really good.
Yeah, very good.
Really, really good at laying these spreads. And so Vegas sees something in Clemson to beat Ohio State, and they see something in Oklahoma that is really, really bad. And so that's why that number 1 spot was so coveted.
Sure. Yeah, and really, I think what they're seeing in Ohio State versus Clemson is almost a coin flip matchup. Like, they're giving Clemson a slight favorite, and that may be based on history and more experienced coaching.
And I think the players are so much more rested. I know Ohio State had a lot of games where their starters were out in the second half, but these last 3 games they've been a street fight. Every single week for the last 3 weeks, they have had to bring it 100%. When Clemson hasn't. And so that's why I have a real fear, because Clemson, they're going to be motivated because everyone's been counting them out. They've dropped to 3rd, going undefeated. And they're going to be motivated. They're going to be fired up, and they're going to be well rested. It's not a good recipe for Ohio State.
Well, and Clemson hasn't had a tough game since North Carolina.
Yeah,
game.
and that shouldn't have even been a tough game. Like
Right.
that was tough because they had a let up. It wasn't tough because North
No.
Carolina was smacking them in the mouth.
No, when
It was-
I say tough, I mean scoreboard.
yeah,
It was a
scoreboard
close
tough.
game. Yeah. No, not a good team.
No,
But since then, they have absolutely done what you expected Clemson to do all year, and they've been dominant.
yeah,
And I think that they are a formidable team. They're a little scary to see, and I think that's where Vegas is looking at them and saying this team is really, really good. And I'm excited about this game. I think it's gonna be a lot of fun. Ohio State versus Clemson, two really good teams, and I think it's gonna be a very close game. I like the spread. I think I think I would have given it -2 to Ohio State personally,
really.
but I love that it's -3 one way or the other is right, just about right.
Yeah. I think I like the idea that Clemson's favored. I think that gives Ohio State motivation. Did you see? I mean, when you look back at the preseason, all the national preseasons, Ohio State wasn't in anyone's top 10 even, and yet they come out and play the season they've played. And so it goes a lot to Ryan Day. All the questions that we had coming into this season were answered pretty early, honestly. Like, what's Ryan Day going to look like as a coach? Perfect so far.
Right.
What's Justin Fields going to look like as a quarterback? Perfect so far. Defense, how's it going to do with all new coaching? Perfect. Every question has been answered. And you can't say that Ohio State has played cupcakes. I mean, I understand the sentiment, but Ohio State, especially playing Wisconsin twice, I give Ohio State a lot of credit for beating that team who's motivated 2 times in one season. And in the first half, I was super nervous of that Wisconsin game.
Yeah, it was a good game. Well, and then to go into your other question, who deserved to be number 1, Ohio State or LSU? In my opinion, here's the bottom line: you can manipulate the numbers to fit whatever you want your argument to be. In this situation, you can talk about what the team was ranked when you played them versus what the teams were ranked at the end of the season. You know what I mean? You can talk about yards per completion or yards per game. You know what I mean? There's so many different numbers you can use to make your argument either way.
Yeah, everybody wants to bring up that Clemson has played 5 top 10 teams. No, they haven't. They played – let's look at the last half of the season, Florida and Georgia, right?
You mean wait, what?
LSU.
There you go.
I'm sorry. Did I apologize. So LSU, everyone said that they played 5 top 10 teams. They played Florida and Georgia, right?
Right.
Okay. That's how I'm going to look at it because Texas didn't have any major slip-ups. Alabama, I mean, they had major injuries, but they played them with an injured Tua, not 100%, but still, I mean, I think that's a good win with Tua in that game. That's a good win for them. Yeah. So I'll give them credit for 3 because I'll put Alabama in the top 10 when playing with Tua, even Tua injured at 70% puts Alabama in the top 10.
Yeah.
And so I'll give LSU credit for 3 top 10 wins, and Ohio State beat Wisconsin twice. So if you want to give us credit for 2, that's fine. And then Penn State is number 10. So I think as far as quality wins, they're right there. They're neck and neck. Like you could have honestly made an argument for either team to be number 1. And I'm fine. I'm kind of happy that we're number 2. Bring on Clemson, and let's see. And bring on a Ryan Day. Let's see what he has. This is it. He's got 3 weeks to prepare. Let's see how good you really are, Ryan Day.
I agree. I mean, I think
I'm pumped. I
was fine either way. Like, I think, obviously, I do cheer for the SEC. I want the SEC to do well.
Mm-hmm.
I want the LSU team who beat Florida. Obviously, I don't want Florida to lose that team, but if they do, then I still want the team that beat them to be successful to make Florida look better. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
I think that helps my team do better. And so, I want LSU to be successful. And realistically, the way I look at it is I think that LSU would struggle more with Clemson than Ohio State would. So I think LSU will have a better matchup against Oklahoma than they would have. I think if you look at the Clemson spread against LSU, Clemson is favored by more than 3.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
So
I think Ohio State against Oklahoma would be favored by more than 13.
I agree.
I'm going to go out on a short limb, but I think the winner of the Ohio State-Clemson game wins the national championship. I think both of these teams match up really well against LSU.
It's interesting. I think – well, I still think LSU Ohio State's a coin flip.
Really?
I still do, yeah. Yeah, and actually LSU Clemson would be a really interesting game. I just want LSU to be Oklahoma at this point to play one of those teams.
Yeah.
Because I think that is setting us up for a really good semifinal and a really good national championship. That I think the best chance for a blowout will be LSU against Oklahoma.
Mm-hmm.
Setting us up for two really, really good games.
Yeah.
So that's why I wanted LSU to get the number 1 seed, because I think that really helps make the games more interesting for me. So selfishly.
Yeah, no, I get it. But I think LSU has a striking weakness, which actually looked good against Georgia, but their defense is a blatant weakness for LSU.
I disagree.
Really?
I really do. Because if you look
why.
at them over the past 3 games, obviously they struggled against Alabama, and then they struggled in the second half against Ole Miss when they were already blowing them out. Since then, they've given up in the last 3 games. They've given up 37 points total. So they've turned it around. In the last 3 games, their defense has really stepped up. They've gotten healthy, and they've played a lot better than they were in the middle of the season.
Yeah, I mean, I think Fromm played the worst game of his life, and I think that really helped their defense look good.
But I think that was LSU's defense too.
It could go either way. Yeah, you could make either argument that is Fromm just overrated, because I think he is ever since his freshman year.
I mean, he hasn't been great this year.
Hasn't been great.
Yeah,
and so Fromm struggles, and so LSU. But I mean, LSU is able to capitalize. So, yeah. Anyway. So LSU, Ohio State, Clemson, Oklahoma semifinals. Florida is going up against who?
They're playing Virginia in the Orange Bowl.
I knew the answer to that, but
I know you did. You wanted to hear me say it. No, I'm fine with it. Whatever. Like, honestly, I think Florida should absolutely blow out Virginia.
Yeah.
And it should, if anything, I'm looking at trying to be optimistic and say it'll help hopefully recruiting on some level.
Yeah.
Right now, I think Florida, depending on which, obviously there's so many different sources for recruiting. Florida is right around number 7 right now and for recruiting classes for 2020.
It's great.
So decent. So they're trying to continue to grow. I've seen 4 players in the past week, I believe, who have decommitted from Miami and Florida State.
Yeah.
And 2 of them actually were originally Gator recruits, if I'm not mistaken, who decommitted and went to the other schools. And now one of them decommitted from Florida State while he was visiting Florida.
Oh, nice.
So it's kind of interesting.
A good look.
Yeah, I think so. So we'll see what happens. But I think I look at this bowl game. It's a New Year's Six game that I think helps us with recruiting, hopefully. And we've gone from 3 years last year to 3 losses last year to 2 losses this year. And Dan Mullen's second season, and hopefully continue to grow from here.
Yeah, I think the future's bright for Florida. I think I like that you're looking at this bowl game so optimistically, because I look at it as a lose-lose for you, just like I think Ohio State playing Washington last year was a lose-lose. If you lose to an ACC team, that's not a good look.
No, but if we win by 30, then I think that's all right.
If you win by 30, yeah, you're doing exactly what you should do. Like, it doesn't show anything, doesn't prove anything. It's just, And so that begs the question to be asked, why play these bowl games?
Money.
Here, I think you play these bowl games basically for the seniors. 90% of the seniors playing are not going to play another football game after this bowl game. And so it gives the seniors one last time to strap it on and go for it.
Well, and the high schoolers that you're hoping to get in. I mean, it gives one extra chance for them to see your school and get excited about it. That's really it.
Yeah. Yeah. I like it because it's helps us solidify conferences. Who was the best this year? When you go head to head, Big Ten versus SEC. ACC has a lot to prove. To try to dig themselves out of this hole that they're in far as perception. So just a lot to like. I love the bowl games. It's the best, especially that Ohio State's in the playoffs. That's
Yeah.
when it's really good.
Yeah, I think the only thing I didn't like about, I mean, I'm not making excuses. I don't really care, honestly. But I'm looking at, like Tennessee, who slipped into a bowl game,
Yeah.
like a 6-6 bowl game, and I can't remember. I saw who they were playing. I was like, oh, it's not ideal for them. There's a couple matchups where I'm like, this, I can see them losing that game. It's like I don't care if they do their 6-6, but at the end of the bowl season, what's going to happen is if the SEC ends up being 5-5 or whatever because of these types of games, then people like, see, overrated.
Yeah.
But it all depends. If LSU goes 2-0 and wins the national championship, and then Tennessee loses to, I can't remember who they're playing. I want to say it's, I don't even know, some mid-level Power 5.
Yeah.
Then it's like, oh, that's not a good look. You know what I mean? So it's fine. It's fun to watch.
It is fun to watch, and if you're Tennessee, you're ecstatic.
Oh yeah,
6-6, you are looking at the future like it is right in front of you. That
they
you
saved
are
the
on your
coach's
way
job.
back. Yeah.
Kirby Smart, right?
Yep, Kirby. Yep,
saved his job.
Yep, 6-6. I mean, good for them because we came into the season just dogging them for like the first 5 weeks. We were just dogging.
Well, they lost
Tennessee.
they lost to what, Georgia Southern or Southern Georgia? I don't know.
Yeah.
And they lost to Florida by 40, and it was just, they were looking bad.
Yeah.
And they did. Good for them. They turned their season around.
Yeah, good for them. And so kudos to Tennessee. I just wanted to put that out there because we really were dogging them all season long. And so I wanted to give them a little shout out today.
Sure. And speaking of Tennessee, you heard about Lane Kiffin.
Yeah, baby. Back in the SEC.
Back in the conference.
Yes. Ole Miss.
All right, Lane, let's see what you got.
Let's see it. We should bring back Kiffin's Corner next year.
I think we have to. Lane Kiffin, actually, they play Florida next year.
Now that they're semi-relative. I mean, he's semi-relative now, I guess.
Kind of.
So, yeah.
I can't wait to hear all the media stuff he's going to say.
It's going to be so
gold.
Good. Kiffin's Corner. Can't wait. Next year, baby. All right, so let's talk Ohio State, Wisconsin for a minute. This was did you watch it start to finish?
Basically, yeah.
Okay, so Ohio State went down 14 points quick. They went, and then they got within one touchdown with 42 seconds left in the half, and you're like, okay, Ohio State, they can score another touchdown against Wisconsin easy. Like, we get the ball at halftime adjustments will be fine. And then with 42 seconds left, Jonathan Taylor breaks off a 45-yard run, puts him right in position to score with even – I think they still had 15 seconds left on the clock at halftime. So it goes 21-7 going into halftime, and I'm freaking out. Like, I'm pacing in my living room. I'm texting my family, like, what are we going to do? What's going to happen? Here we go. And then Ohio State rips off 27 straight to put me at ease. And they cost us the number one spot, that horrible first half. But talk about halftime adjustments. Talk about coaching. And just as good as Ohio State coached, the second half, Wisconsin failed to coach their second half, failed to make adjustments, just thought that their hype and energy could carry them through. And Ohio State just looks so good.
Yeah. I mean, the one thing that I want to point out is the silence of Chase Young for the second straight game.
Yeah, but if you watched the games and you saw the replays, he was triple teamed. He was mostly triple teamed every single play. Wisconsin was not going to let Chase Young win this game for Ohio State. And he was triple teamed every single time, and it had to be frustrating. But Chase Young took home the Bronco Nagurski, something like that.
For the best defensive lineman?
Defensive player.
Defensive player. Oh, yeah.
Best defensive player, and he's probably going to win best defensive lineman. He's up for the Heisman.
Sure.
And so he had the most sacks in the NCAA, even being suspended for 2 games. I mean, he's definitely he's the best player in college football. And if he was able to play those 2 games, I think it would be between him and Joe Burrow more an even Heisman split.
Yeah. I mean, I think of the 2 Buckeye players going to the
first time ever, offensive and defensive, from the same team, Heisman finalist.
But I think I would put him on there as my number 1 candidate from the Buckeyes.
Yeah, over Justin Fields.
For
Justin
sure.
Fields had an amazing season, 40 touchdowns,
He had a solid
almost
season.
3,000 passing yards, several rushing touchdowns. I mean, he had a really good. It was kind of a quietly good season.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
I
you
would
didn't
put
hear.
I would put Jalen Hurts over him right now. I would
Yeah.
have put. I would have. I
Give
should
us your
say.
Heisman. Let's just break it down. 1, 2, 3,
Oh.
4. If you're a voter,
Well, the bottom line is Joe Burrow's going to win it, right?
Joe Burrow's number 1 on everybody. He may unanimous, first unanimous Heisman winner. I don't know.
I don't think there's any question just because of the numbers. I want to look them up just so I'm clear. His numbers were
7 touchdowns, I think.
just outrageous. I mean,
yeah,
really
I mean,
outrageous.
Haskins had 50 last year and didn't win. So, I mean, how outrageous is it?
Well, the same with Tebow. You know what I mean? Like, it's just one of those things.
Depends on the season. Yeah.
Yep. But I think I would put Burrow 1, Hurts 2, Young 3, and then Fields 4.
You'd put Hurts over Fields and Young?
Yeah, I would.
No, I think I would go, if it's me, here's my top 4. And as you know, I'm Ohio State biased. So I'm going
Which one?
Burrow, Young, Fields, Hurts. Because I think Hurts gets a lot of credit because he is the offense for Oklahoma. But I think he throws a lot of picks. He's not.
He has 7 interceptions.
Yeah.
How many does
1.
Fields have?
1.
How many does Burrow have?
Like
does he have like
5 or
5?
6?
Yeah.
5? Yeah.
So pretty comparable.
Not to Fields. He has 7 times the interceptions of.
But I feel like Fields is barely in the conversation, like fairly or not.
He almost had 3,000 passing yards. He had 40 touchdowns. It's second all time in the Big Ten.
I'm not downplaying his season.
He had a
Calm
great
down.
season.
He had a very good season.
He was better than Hurts. He's better than Hurts.
I don't think he's better than Hurts.
What?
He had way more weapons than Hurts had. First of all, you can't disagree with that. Like he had.
Hurts had.
Hurts led his team in rushing, right?
I hear you. Well,
but passing and rushing.
Yeah, I mean he's good, but
1,200 rushing yards.
Okay.
And 18 touchdowns rushing.
All right.
3,600 passing yards and 32 touchdowns.
I hear you. He had a good season, but he didn't have as good of a season as Justin Fields. But anyway, hold on.
Okay.
Here's and I'm going to say this because I think your perception is being tainted a little. Because when you look at so say you're an announcer. Okay, you're coming into an Ohio State game. What are you going to talk about? Okay, you're going to talk about Justin Fields. You're going to talk about Chase Young. You're going to talk about J.K. Dobbins. You're going to talk about Ryan Day. You're going to talk about all these great things that are happening for Ohio State. Okay, so say you're that same announcer going into an Oklahoma game. What are you going to talk about?
I talk about Hurts and Lamb, the wide receiver.
Yeah, exactly. And you may even throw in how good their coach is at quarterback, as a quarterback guru.
Yeah.
Okay, and so when you have that, you're going to get a lot better perception than for Ohio State because all your stats on the screen. They're going to show how great Jalen Hurts is. Maybe they're going to show a little bit. They're going to talk about Lamb when the ball's thrown to him and how good he is. He's going to be an impact player. But every conversation that they're going to have is going to be Jalen Hurts. And so I think the perception that Jalen Hurts is that good is let me reverse this. I say that because I think the fact that Justin Fields had so many weapons actually hurt Justin Fields and his Heisman candidacy, if that makes sense.
No, it does. I think it has to. I mean, to be fair or not.
I mean, you had KJ Hill, who had the quietest, most receptions in Ohio State history. He has more receptions than any wide receiver at Ohio State, and you barely hear about him. Like that's why so many weapons kind of hurt these players a little bit because they kind of get drowned out by all the other superstars on the team.
I hear what you're saying, but when you have a running back who has 1,800 yards in the season, you know what I mean? That kind of – I feel like they kind of –
like a quarterback?
No, running back.
Oh.
J.K. Dobbins at 1,800 yards rushing.
Yeah.
So you're talking about like this – obviously, when you have to consider that when you're planning for a defense, and obviously that makes a significant difference compared to your quarterback being your leading rusher for the season.
Yeah.
He had 1,200 yards rushing and 18 touchdowns as a quarterback.
How many rushing yards did Oklahoma's running back have?
I have no idea.
Okay. I bet it. You think it's less than 1,000?
I have no clue
Let's look
because
it up.
all
Look,
right.
okay, because the reason I make this point is because our backup running back had 700 yards rushing this year. That's our backup.
What does that have to do with your quarterback Heisman chances?
No, that was just me bragging about how great
Okay.
Ohio State is. That was just me. When you said that Jalen Hurts led his team in rushing, then you 1,800 for Dobbins, 700 for Master Teague. Think about if J.K. Dobbins played the entire game every week. Think about how many rushing yards you'd have.
Well,
add 700 to it.
Sure.
I mean, that's crazy.
Well, the starting running back for Oklahoma had 976 rushing yards.
He beat our second teamer by 200 yards. Bummer.
But that's my point. That I don't think that hurts my argument. Like Jalen Hurts had 1,200 rushing yards and 18 touchdowns and 3,600 passing yards and 32 touchdowns. So 50 touchdowns. Like that's no joke. Like that's the thing is like I think the fact in the history has shown for Heisman candidates, if you are the significant portion of your offense, then your odds are increased dramatically to win the Heisman.
Yeah, I mean, do you know how many passing attempts he had?
He had 309 passing attempts.
Yeah, 222 completions. So he's only completing 70% of his passes.
Almost 72, but yes.
Yeah. Justin Fields, on the other hand, only had 308 attempts.
He also only completed 67% of his passes.
Yeah, but he had way less attempts and 40 touchdowns and only one interception. Oh.
But could we argue again that it's who he's throwing to, how they have to account for the running game versus Jalen Hurts? You know what I mean? Like that's I think the conversation of who he's playing around makes it a lot easier to be successful. There's not as much pressure on him as there was on Jalen Hurts.
You could go either way. It's and it's kind of a moot point because neither one of these guys is going to win it. And
Sure.
I hope that Justin Fields ends up second because I think to stand out and to make an impact the way he has on a team that is so stacked like Ohio State. Like I think you have 22 guys starting for Ohio State who are going to play in the NFL. I don't think there's one person on this team who's not going to be playing, who's not going to get drafted. And so to be able to stand out and to make an impact the way that he has is very, very impressive. And he's going to be why am I blanking on Clemson's quarterback right now? Shoot. Who's Clemson's quarterback? Tim, help me. Trevor Lawrence. Yeah. Justin Fields and Trevor Lawrence are going to be your front runners next year for the Heisman. And it's going to be fun because these two have been competing since they were in high school for number one recruit. I mean, they were basically 1A and 1B in recruiting. And what was it, 2018? Yeah, 2018 or 17 recruiting class. And they've been competing their whole lives. And I think next year they're going to be competing for the Heisman and they're going to be competing for that number one draft pick. So next year's going to be a lot of fun. And I see Ohio State back in the playoffs. Spoiler alert, for next year, Ohio State's back in it.
Well, you have to say that. You're a Buckeye fan. But no, I understand what you're saying. It is really those two. And obviously Trevor Lawrence had a little bit of a down year this year compared to what he did.
To start the season.
Right.
The start of the season was rough for me. I think he tried to do too much. Yeah. And once he fell back into the systems, everything ended up fine.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think he had 6 interceptions of his 8 were in the first half of the year, I think, something like that. So he's really calmed down and just got back into the, like you said, the system and just playing, being the player that he was last year.
Yeah.
So it is going to be a really fun rest of this year and going into next year. I'm really excited.
Yeah. It is. It's going to be an exciting season next year. Let's wrap up this year. Let's go with let's talk about how we did preseason top 10 versus how we finished, because there's going to be a lot of points where people are going to want to go to Vegas and put money on our top 10 next year because we did pretty well
We
picking our
did.
top 10.
Yeah, we really did surprisingly well.
Yeah.
For sure.
So I'm gonna point out my big blunders of who I had in the top 10 who never should have been there. Okay, so preseason I had Notre Dame number 10. Never should have been anywhere near the top 10, obviously.
I mean, they're 15th, but yeah, I gotcha.
But here's the thing: after you get past 6, you can just kind of plug them in wherever. 6 to 15. I mean, 6 to 20. I mean, anyone after 6. And I'm sorry, Florida's in that too, but anyone past 6 is kind of, whatever. Okay, so Notre Dame, Michigan, and Texas.
I kind of disagree with that. Like, I think top 10 is significant. Once you get 11 to 25, that's where it becomes like a plug them in. It doesn't really matter. But those top 10 are the ones that are, especially in the preseason. Those are the ones who should be in consideration for the playoff.
All right, I'll let you have it. So I had Notre Dame at 10, Michigan at 6. Who should have never been there, and Texas at 5. And I had Bama at 3. That's a blunder considering they're not even in the top 10 now. So I'll even throw in Bama at number 3 as a blunder for me.
Yeah. Well, I had a couple teams that you actually mocked me for some of these teams in the preseason. And I told you that I was out on a limb on a couple of them, but I really believed in them. Utah, for example, ended up number 11.
Yeah.
I put them at number 10, so I was really close there.
Really close. That was really well done. Yeah. That's a win for you for sure.
The other one was Iowa, who lost like 4 3-point or less games.
Yeah, really
they couldn't close it out.
Right.
I had them at number 9. They ended up number 16, so I messed that one up. I also put Notre Dame at number 8, which I shouldn't have. We both kind of screwed that one up.
Yeah.
The other one is I put Alabama at number 2, which we all know what happened there. They're number 13. The other big mistake I made is I left LSU completely out of my top 10. So obviously a big mistake there. That was by far the biggest blunder I've made in my top 10 preseason.
Yeah, and so I had our top 4 to finish the season. Not our top 4, but the committee's top 4. 1 LSU, 2 OSU, 3 Clemson, 4 Oklahoma. I had 50% of those right. And Georgia, I had at number 2. Which barely didn't get in at number 5. And so I had LSU at 9, Oklahoma at 7, Ohio State at 4, and Clemson at 1. So that's where my final 4 started the season, and they were all pretty doggone close.
Yeah.
Just well, right there.
I did not have LSU in my top 10. Like I said, I had Ohio State at number 6. I had Clemson at number 1, and I had Oklahoma at number 3.
Okay.
So I also had 50%. Right.
Yeah. Yeah, so that's not bad. It also shows that there's lack of parity in college football. If we can get 50% of the Final 4 right before the season even starts.
Yep.
Or just him and I are just super smart. That's really what it comes down
to. Let's go.
We're really, really good at this. You know what shows that we're not really good at this? Our picks against the spread, Tim. Tell us about last week.
For yourself.
Yeah, I'm really bad at this. So how did last week end up? Where did we finish the season? And we'll talk about what game you want to go to as we approach next season.
All right. So this past week, I actually let you pick, and I just went opposite of whatever you said, if you recall.
Yeah.
So the first one we did was Utah playing Oregon. Oregon was giving 6 points to Utah, and Oregon dominated. You took Oregon there.
Yeah.
So you got that one.
Boom.
The next one was Baylor versus Oklahoma. Oklahoma -8. Oklahoma did not cover that one. They won by 7 in overtime. So you picked. Oh wait, you picked Baylor. So you actually got that one too.
Yeah, I got that one.
Good job.
Yeah.
Georgia LSU. You took LSU -7.5.
Mm-hmm.
So another one for you.
That's another one. Yeah.
They dominated. So you're getting all these points too little, too late, unfortunately. But you did
would
well
have let
this week.
me. Do I get the sweep? What did I pick for the Ohio State game? I don't remember.
You didn't get the sweep.
I didn't get the sweep.
No, because Clemson was -29, and you took Virginia. And Clemson won 62-17.
I took Virginia.
You took Virginia.
All right.
You did take Ohio State -16.5.
Yeah, they didn't cover that.
They did not cover that. So you did not win that one either. And then Cincinnati at Memphis. You took Cincinnati plus 10.
Yeah, and they did that. They covered that.
And they covered that one. So good job there.
Yeah.
So overall,
4 out of 6.
4 out of 6, not bad.
So how did we finish the season?
I was up by 8.
And I'm +2 on that one.
Yeah, you're +2 on that one.
So you won by 6.
I still beat you by 6.
Dang. All right. There's always next year. I sound like a Browns fan. There's always next year. And so that's 2 in a row. Tim, I'm going to end up buying you a stadium by the time this is over. Gosh.
That's the plan, right?
Yeah.
New indoor practice facility or something?
This is just going to keep escalating for me. Okay, Tim. So I'll give it to you. You took it 6. You beat me by 6 during the off season. But let's say we make a wager leading into the postseason. Okay. So we'll close it out. Before we get into this, let me just say we'll close out the regular season. What happened. I'll buy tickets. You can go to the game on me, you and your wife, and enjoy a nice date night. But let's have a small wager for the off season. And I think you actually brought this up. And so we're going to do a postseason wager, and we're going to pick 4 bowl games that are going to be 4 of the most publicized, including Ohio State and Florida. And the winner of this has to do something that the other person says, an embarrassing thing, and post it on our social media page.
Sure.
Okay, so for me, I would like to see you do an OHIO with you and your family. If I win, you just do a nice little social media, and you can't wear your Gator gear, and do a nice little OHIO to represent the great state of Ohio and the great Ohio State University.
First of all, don't worry. I wouldn't wear my Gator gear during that garbage. Second of all, I would take that as long as the understanding is it will not be my immediate family, but my relatives. So
I would prefer your immediate family, if I'm being honest, because I know your relatives are Buckeye fans, so it doesn't
my
mean
wife won't
anything
do
to
it,
them.
period. My wife will not do that.
But
my dad and my sister, her kids, they like the Buckeyes, whatever. There's something wrong with them. So they all actually cheer for the Buckeyes.
Okay,
so
this can't be like a year from now, though.
No, it'll
Thanksgiving next year.
No, it'll be the day after the Buckeyes
all right.
Play Clemson.
Day after. Okay. All right. I'll take it.
Okay.
As long as you're in it.
Yeah, I'll be in it for
Okay.
sure. Yeah, that's the deal. But
Okay.
you, if I win this, I want a video of you saying "Go Gators" and doing the Gator Chomp, and I want you to be like into it, like you mean it, like you love those Gators.
All right, that's fair. But you have to. Are you going to smile when you do the OHIO and be into it?
Do you want me to smile or want me to look like I'm dying?
I want you to smile and
Okay,
be like a real Buckeye.
I'll make it look like I'm like really a Buckeye fan. Like
yeah.
I'll do it. Deal.
Yeah. Okay. All right. That sounds good. All right. Give us the spreads.
All right. So we have Oklahoma playing LSU. LSU is favored by 13.
Where's this being played? Is it Atlanta?
Let me double check. I'm not positive on that one. Let me look. That's a good question, though. That matters.
Yeah. I think it's Atlanta, and which is huge. It's kind of almost – I think it's big for LSU. I think that's yeah, it's a little closer to LSU.
This game is played – oh, man, where is it? Okay, it's played in Chick-fil-A Peach Bowl. Is that Atlanta?
I think I could be
Why
wrong.
does it not show? Yes. Yep.
Atlanta?
It is. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So it's at Atlanta and LSU by 13. I'll let you go first. You let me pick every single one last week. So I'll let you go first this time.
Well, you don't have to go opposite.
I won't.
Like, you should already have your pick.
Yeah.
I am taking Oklahoma to cover, but LSU to win.
Okay, I'm actually going LSU here.
LSU?
Big. Yep, LSU big. I see. I mean, if they could beat Georgia by, was it like 35, 34, I think they can take Oklahoma pretty easily by 13. Yeah.
Okay. Clemson playing Ohio State. Ohio State is giving 2 points to Clemson, and they're playing in Glendale, Arizona, which I think you probably already knew that.
Yeah. Which is as neutral as you can get. Both teams are traveling.
Yeah.
Give me Ohio State. I think Ohio State will win by 10.
Wow. I'm taking Clemson just to win by a field goal.
Okay.
All right, and then we have Florida playing Virginia. Florida is giving Virginia 13.5 points, and they're playing in Miami.
Isn't that crazy? Florida playing Virginia gets just as many points as Oklahoma at LSU.
Yeah.
Like that. Jeez. Give me Florida still on that one.
Absolutely. Me too. No question for me. Like that's an easy take for me on that one. Okay, and then we have the Michigan playing Alabama in Orlando. Which, by the way, you should come down for that game. It'll be fun.
That would be fun.
Alabama is favored by 7.
Bama by 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, give me Bama.
Really? I'm taking Michigan.
Really?
I think Alabama's going to win, but I think it's going to be closer than that.
I think Michigan is not good. So, Bama.
I love it. So 3 of the 4, we went different ways.
Yeah.
So there will be a clear winner.
There will be, and it will be me. I need some kind of consolation prize here. I need something.
Yeah, well, I guess the only way that we could potentially tie if Michigan Alabama, if Alabama wins by 7.
Yeah.
And then the other ones
That's true.
Go other way. Yeah. But the other ones -13 +2 +13.5 are unlikely. I guess LSU could be Oklahoma by 13 exactly, but I would think that would be unlikely. Yeah. And even in that case, the Clemson Ohio State game, I doubt anybody's gonna win by 2, so somebody's gonna win.
Right.
That's the bottom line.
Somebody's gonna win. Yep. Yeah, it's gonna be fun. So that is our regular season wrap up, plus the championship bowl games. Tim, what is your final thoughts closing us out?
I just want to talk about recruiting a little bit. I'm excited for the future of Florida. Florida State hired a new coach. Miami's sticking with this new guy they had this year who had a terrible season. So I'm excited to see where, Dan Mullen, 2 seasons in, this is where I saw the big inconsistencies of the last 2 coaches at Florida. They could have a season where they coached really well and they got to the conference championship, and the next season they win 4 games or 5 games. And that's where I don't see that from Dan Mullen. He's very mature. Kyle Trask has taken over. Felipe Franks officially announced he's going to transfer.
Oh, really? I didn't know that.
So
going into the portal.
He's going in the portal. He's out. Understandably, and I think there's a lot of respect for everyone at Florida for him. They just said they had that conversation of Kyle Trask, Emory Jones are kind of the next guys up, and there are other players who are looking at coming in the next, in this next class that really they're basically. I think that what happens, they probably told Felipe Franks like, "Hey, you're the odd man out at this point."
Right.
So for good reason though. Kyle Trask came in, had an incredible season.
Yeah.
Played really well from the Kentucky game on. Hit a couple of mistakes that cost some big games, but overall, great season. Very impressed with how he came in and played. A guy who hadn't played since his freshman year of high school.
You think he'll be on the Heisman watch list? Where will he end up on the Heisman watch list starting next season?
I think he will be. I think his season was good enough to, draw some, some eyes were looking at him. Like he was, if they had won those close games against Georgia and LSU, obviously they would have been undefeated. And at that point, I think that he's definitely in consideration. Those 2 losses really hurt them. So, for a guy that didn't start the first couple of games, his numbers, were good. They weren't completely overwhelming, but overall very solid. So, I'm just really excited for recruiting this season. They have number 7 ranked class right now, like we talked about earlier, and even in the next couple of years, their classes are growing quickly. And right now, I think that Dan Mullen has the advantage over the state of Florida from those other major schools. UCF is down, which is a funny thing to have to say out loud. Florida State with a new coach, so we'll see what Mike Norvell turns him into, the Memphis coach.
Yeah.
Miami, I think Miami's kind of a joke at this point, to be honest. And honestly, losing to Miami cost Florida State's coach his job. That's what would cost Willie his job. So I think Florida has a really great opportunity right now to take control of the state of Florida. And that's kind of what happens with these Florida teams is like it's a swing of momentum based on how the coaches are doing.
Yeah.
And that's what leads to domination in college football in the state of Florida.
Florida's such a hard place to coach in. Such a hard place. There's too many high-profile teams in that state. And then you want to add in when was it? Yeah, Florida Atlantic who takes some, and then you also have who was the team that UFC? Who was it? Not UFC.
You have UCF. You have
UCF,
South Florida.
Yeah, UCF, who's trying to make a stand these past couple of years.
South Florida.
Just have so
recently,
much competition in the state of Florida for
they
recruits.
do, and Willie Tiger might actually go to the University of South Florida. He had a lot of success there several years ago. So you have Miami, Florida State, Florida, UCF, USF.
Yeah.
And other schools, FAU trying to jump in there a little bit, and just there's a lot of competition in the state of Florida. There's a lot of really good recruits, obviously, coming out of Florida too. But it's just
they get poached. Ohio State has poached tons of talent out of the state of Florida. Absolutely.
But I think California, Texas, and Florida seem to be the three states that have several high-profile schools.
And Ohio.
Ohio only has one profile school.
Oh, I thought you meant profile recruits.
Not recruits. Sorry. Not recruits. Ohio has good recruits.
Yeah.
But they only have one high-profile school.
Right. Yeah.
So the other three states have a big disadvantage in that area, and that's where right now Florida has the opportunity to take the high ground on that and really take advantage of these changes to get these recruits. So I'm just really excited to see the future of Florida based on that as well.
Huge. My final thoughts are going to be on Ohio State and Michigan. Not so much Ohio State, but more about Michigan this time around, because I keep saying Ohio State. Michigan is playing Alabama in the bowl game, and so you're seeing a lot of things on social media of Ohio State fans saying, "You never root for Michigan. I don't care who they're playing. It doesn't matter. You never root for Michigan. True fans never root for Michigan." And I'm here to tell you that you fans are wrong. It's not true fans. I think if you root for Ohio State, you're a true fan. Whatever. I'm not going to say that you're not a true fan if you don't root for Michigan or the vice versa. But let me help you people understand. We want Michigan to beat Alabama. If we don't want to be the ACC, if we don't want to get swept in this bowl game and be the ACC of next year, we want the Big Ten to look good against high-profile teams like Alabama. We want the Big Ten to smoke Alabama so that they can say, oh, my gosh, even with Tua, they don't even stand a chance against the Big Ten. That's the perception that we want for the Big Ten. This thought of rooting against Michigan just doesn't make any sense to me, folks. It just doesn't. If you're rooting against Michigan, I challenge you to say, are you an Ohio State fan or are you a Michigan hater? Because if you want Michigan to lose every game, you're not an Ohio State fan. You are a Michigan hater. Because it doesn't make any sense. I was in a conversation with someone on social media this week where I challenged them and said, why are you rooting against Michigan? And they said, well, I just always have. Ever since I've grown up, I'm a traditionalist. I've always just rooted against Michigan. And I said, exactly. It's about you and it's not about the team. If you care about the team and the perception the team has, you want to root for the University of Michigan. As hard as that may be, you want Michigan to win. So don't buy gear, don't go to the game, don't whatever, but check your phone and be thankful if Michigan beats Alabama. That's what I have to say. Those are my final thoughts. Tim Jones, it's been a pleasure, my friend. That is the wrap-up of our – did you want to respond to my Ohio State, Michigan?
No, that's fine. I was just going to say, I totally agree with you. I think I talked about with LSU. I want LSU to do well and make Florida look good.
Yeah, exactly.
The bottom line is exactly. It's good for my team when my conference does well. Because then it's like, well, you're a watered down team on an average conference. Like, no, it matters. Like it's also it matters for next season.
Yeah.
Because as we've seen
going in,
absolutely. Because we talked about this from the very beginning of the season, and you brought it up first, and you're absolutely right. The preseason rankings matter because it matters
so
where we get it at the end, and a lot of that is based on how the last season ends.
Right.
So if my conference does well, it looks good for my team starting next season as well.
Right. And we say that we're really, really smart for picking. I picked 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 out of the top 6 of the 10 that I picked are in the top 10. And that's not a coincidence. They're there because they started the season there, not because I'm super smart. These teams ended in the top 10 because they started in the top 10. That's it. The preseason rankings are huge. That may matter a ton. And so these bowl games matter for that because of the perception and what the preseason rankings are. Tim, you're exactly right. And so with that, we will say goodbye for our regular season. We'll be back in 3 weeks. Mark your calendars, mark it down. We'll see you in 3 Tuesdays from today. As long as Tim and I are both available. It's hard to plan out 3 weeks ahead, but we will see you in 3 weeks post first round of the college football playoffs, the semifinals. Go Buckeyes. Thank you all so much for being a part of the show. Thank you so much to our sponsors, Press Play Podcast Network, the Agape Ridge Cabins, Affinity Apartment Communities, My Auto Care. Thank you all so much. And most of all, thank you to our listeners. Week in and week out, you join us and you get involved in social media with us, and we love you all so much. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And we'll catch you next time. Thanks so much for being a part of it. He's Tim Jones. I'm Aaron Shipe. Talk to you later.
Go Gators.